Hello there. Good morning from where I am. It's really early in the morning. I haven't eaten yet, but as a neurodivergent person, there was all those things that came to my mind that I really felt like saying, and I've been feeling for a lot of time to speak about those things. And yeah, I feel like I have to talk about it. And I've been putting it on for so long. I was trying to programmatize it in my mind. But yeah, I just let it flow. As a neurodivergent person, um when inspiration comes, when the channeling happens, you just need to let it flow. You just need to go with it. And that is my God. So yeah. Um so I want to speak about shadow work. Yeah, its use, its importance, and yeah, I'm being cold to say this because I look around me and I feel like I just let it slide for so long, but I look around me and it's like universe saying like, hey, look at this person, it's suffering. Hey, what if it had like this one information, about this one thing? What if this person knew that this tool exists? Because I look at shadow work like a tool. And yesterday it happened that a friend of mine, a really close friend, a friend that I really love, sent like a message basically saying that, hey, I had enough here, like I don't want to be here anymore. And that's crazy. But on her astrological chart, I don't remember if she is 8th house stellium, but she has like a lot of energy in the 8th house in known astrology. 8th house is dark house, like 6th house and 12th house, and if you have placements in any of those houses, you need to learn a great tool called shadow work. And it's not just me saying that. Oh my gosh, excuse my God. It's not just me saying that. It's is astrology. When you have things in dark houses, placements in dark houses, you need to put, you need to work with shadow, right? That's what shadow work means, working with shadow. So if you have something in dark houses and houses which a lot of shadow is in, you can actually see with like clear lenses, you need to learn how to speak the language of the darkness. Basically, that's what shadow work is. And it's not just me saying it, there's a lot of astrologers who actually, like look at the depths of astrology. I'm not speaking about pop culture astrology. I'm speaking about people who do esoteric astrology, right? I've always felt like there's always something deeper to the things, and it turned out I have a lot of placements in the 12th house and the 8th house, and life has pushed me in a way to face my shadows, to do shadow work. And I remember, something really traumatic was happening to me, and it got to a point where, I had to book a therapy session. And truth is, I wanted to be a psychologist. Funny, right? I have my moon in the 8th house. I think it makes sense of why I need, why I wanted to be a psychologist. I always knew people. I always could read people. I always could read the energy in the room, and I always had people coming to me asking for guidance. And from such a young age, like they always had me as like their therapist. I don't feel like really happy saying this because I have been such a people pleaser and a giver for a lot of years in my life, and that didn't turn out good. But I'm happy because, like imagine what I may say that really changed their whole lives. And I had friends which, like they called me and they were like, I'm about to make this big freaking decision in my life. I want your opinion. And I feel like it's really powerful knowing that you can affect someone in such a big way, you know, in a good perspective. um and yeah, and so I was being brought to the therapy, because there was a lot of things happening. Actually, I had like those voices saying really bad things, you know, accusing me of such bad things that I would do or that I am. So criticizing, so harsh. And it really just pushed my buttons, pushed things that were really scary for me, that were really, how to say this, were really triggering for me. And you know, it touched a lot of childhood things, and I just did not know what to do with this information, because I was also scared to even talk about it, you know, because I was like, oh my gosh, like they're going to think I'm crazy, they're going to accuse me of being a fucking crazy person, they're going to give me treatment or something, and I'm not into this. One reason why I never truly become a psychologist, outside of the fact that I'm a neurodivergent person, I really, you know, I couldn't save my life to memorize a lot of things. So, you know, even if I was qualified to do this work, yeah, I couldn't do it in the way this school system really is, you know. Like in some lessons I had to memorize. I'm not good with memorizing, and I tried so hard. You know, I gave 2 times those tests, and it just, you know, it didn't happen. It wasn't meant to. I don't know. But one thing that really kept me back from, you know, being a psychologist and losing interest is all this system that works with the pills and all that. I've never felt aligned with anything like that, and it never truly made any sense to me, to be truly honest. So yeah, here we are. So I did therapy. You know, I tried to do therapy, but and I changed to therapists, and nothing worked. And I remember this one therapist saying to me that, hey, you know, you cannot go deeper. You know, it's impossible. That's what she said. It's impossible for a person to go this deeper, right? Like people cannot go this deeper. And I was like, what she's talking about, you know? I'm like, I'm strong enough, you know? She spoke to a person that has Capricorn rising and Mars in the first house with Moon in the 8th. Like, you know what I'm saying? I know how to do this. I know how to take a challenge. I know how to fight. You know, I know how to fight. You saying I cannot do that? No, that triggers me. You know what I'm saying? That triggers my inner fighter to a point. It's like, I'm gonna go and show you. And I was like, what she's talking about? Like, you know, she was like, you know, people. Like she spoke about each one of us. She didn't spoke about like, you know, like 80% or 90%. She's like, people cannot go there. People cannot go deep. And I was like, I want to go deep though, right? Moon in the 8th house, I want to go so deep. I lose every part of me just to rebirth myself, right? And I just didn't like it, you know, because a lot of this therapy, even though it just, you know, I'm not going to say it was useless, but it didn't work for me. It really didn't. I also did hypnotherapy. I also had a spiritual coach around shadow work, and I feel like he helped me more than therapy. And in hypnotherapy also, it helped me in a way. But you know, this like preparation and shadow work, it was really helpful. Yeah, so I was collecting information from different sources, right? And I did not know I was actually collecting them. I was like, I want to get out of this hard situation I'm in. I never look at it like, hey, you know, right now you are being, you know, initiated to a path that after a little while, you're not going to shut your mouth. and you're going to, you know, like come back with a lot of information that you're going to integrate, and it's going to take you time. But once you do, you know, you need to speak about it. You need to yell from the top of the mountains. And I've never been a loud person, to be truly honest with you, but I feel it's the time. I feel it's the time. That's why I'm doing this video. I feel it's the time to speak about shadow work and a little bit of my journey. Not a lot. I'm just saying it without the details. I may do a different video on it. I want to do a different video. So what really pushed me, what, you know, this was the last resort for me, to be truly honest. This was my last chance. I said, if this thing do not work out, then I don't want to be here. You know, because it was just so messy in my head. Those voices criticizing me and accusing me of the most cruel things in the world. I thought I was going to harm people. I thought I was the worst person you could ever imagine. I had this phobia with knives. Like, what if I just, you know, whenever I was seeing knives, it's like, what if I take it and just, you know, like, unalive someone? And, you know, doing my research, I also found out that this called pure OCD, and it made sense to me because I had like all of those things, you know. I had them. I was seeing pictures, I was hearing voices, and yeah, so it was a really tough thing. And I said, you know, yeah, hypnotherapy, you know, helped me like at 30%, and therapy in some way, not even 10%, maybe 5%, I don't know. Because therapy made me feel hopeless at times. It made me feel like, hey, you know, like this system is just so broken. It really cannot fix anything, right? It really, I don't know, it just felt so meaningless to me. It didn't help me the way I thought, the way a lot of people speak. That helps them, right? And then this shadow work really, you know, Ryan helped me so much, like to 20 or 30%, because he was giving me tools to work with every day. And I was like, you know, at one point I like 40 to 50%, I'm good, you know, but I have this other 50%, and I just can't anymore. And I was feeling like I need to go to the roots. I need to go deep, and I don't know how to do that. I don't know. You know, I don't trust myself enough. I don't trust the stones enough to dive deeper, right? But I felt like there's something at the roots. I need to find what it is. I need to find what it is, because I won't be okay. I just know. At this point, it was just so close. You know, to me saying that, hey, you know, if I really cannot go to the roots, I don't think I can solve this problem, right? It just felt so, I don't know how to say this, like so pressuring, you know. It's so pressuring to me. It's like I have to find to the, I don't know why, but I have to go to roots, and there's no other way. I want to find another way. I don't feel another person can do this for me. I have to do this for me. And I knew about plant medicine. Knew about ayahuasca, and I had it in my mind just before I went through this whole psychological meltdown and breakdown. I wanted to do this, you know. I found it very magical. So this was my last result, truly. And finally I had the money to do it, so I booked that. And it was crazy. Like, can you imagine? I was just so desperate that this was my first ever trip abroad, and I took it alone to, and not just a new country, but I had to go to a new place with new people, do something that is so foreign to me. Like, everything was just so fucking crazy now that I think about it, right? But back then I was like, I was just so desperate. I don't give a fuck, you know? Like, everything can happen to me, but it's like, everything is happening to me. So, like, it doesn't matter. And my life didn't matter that much. But I was just so desperate. I felt like I was just so stubborn to find this one solution, this one, you know, like to go to the roots, to find the answer. I was just so desperate to find the answer that nothing really mattered. It was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go along. So what? You know, with people I don't fucking know. So what? You know, I'm going to. I didn't even thought about, hey, you know, making friends in the at the retreat there. I was like, no, I have to find myself. I really have to. And yeah, it was like, yeah, all these people helped me, and I appreciate each one of them, negative or positive, teach me something. And I'm the type of person that I always want to alchemize and transmute and take and filter, you know, take everything that is for me and live what isn't. There's always something at the end. And yeah, I said I have to do this, and I want to do ayahuasca because I know, like, you're going to go on a trip with yourself, and whatever comes, you know. And also, ayahuasca is like a shadow psychedelic, right? Which I did not know. I learned after, right? But I was just so ready, and I remember saying to this coach of mine, like, I'm ready to face hell. You know, because I knew I will face hell. Isn't it funny? I knew that I had to face my own hell in order to, you know, start building my own heaven. So I did ayahuasca, and that's where everything really started to fall into place. This when I feel like there was this big initiation happening. Ayahuasca brought me back to myself and teach me how to do the simple things that we've forgotten with the years to even do, to even consider. You know what I'm saying? I had a big problem with my emotions. I've never been told, I've never been, you know, like, no one teach me. I never been teach how to feel my emotions, how to recognize my emotions, how to be with my emotions. And I mean, like, I get it, right? Most of our society is just emotionally unavailable, and we don't know how to deal with our emotions. So ayahuasca teach me that, and it teach me shadow work in a really weird and terrifying way for me while I was living it. But it teach me how to not also sit with my emotions, but to do shadow work, you know, to go through hell, to finally, you know, feel free and just let everything go. And I've never been the same person before. I mean, like, I know from this teacher of mine, you know, shadow work, but the way ayahuasca teach me, and the way I started to practice myself, it felt so different. I'm not going to say, like, it's just so different, but for me it is. It's my way, at least. So a person that was just so afraid of my own darkness ended up being so obsessed. So obsessed and in love with darkness and shadow work. A person that always spoke of the light and tried to find the light, and being in this love and light community, the first steps in my spirituality, when this whole door and world opened up to me. I was like, oh my gosh. You know, when I realized the power, we're speaking about power right now. Talking about power right now, like the power that shadow work contains, and they don't want you to know. At least for the people who can do this work, because I'm going to also speak. You know, there's a disclaimer. Like, the type of power you gain, the type of self-knowing and self-worth, the type of information you can gain from this is just so powerful. You know, information is what is the most powerful thing. Don't let anyone fool you thinking it's just money, thinking it's just another person. Information is the most powerful weapon. Especially now that we're Pluto and Aquarius information. Because if you think about it, Aquarius is fixed air. Very stubborn about its ways. Very stubborn about its thinking. About its process of thinking and speaking. About its ideas, right? About his ideas. About the way to live, you know? So yeah, you don't want to change, right? But it also is air, which means it changes all the time. Now that it's in Pluto, it's like you need to change all the time. You need, you know, a thought process is going to die and it's going to be reborn again. Like, you know, you're going to go through a lot of different stages of thinking and being. And yeah, information is the most important thing that you can ever really have access to in this life. And shadow work is knowing yourself, knowing your biggest weaknesses, and being comfortable with them. And once you can really be comfortable with them, once you can really, you know, sit at the same room and at the same ticket even, you know, and just be cool with it, that is when you master yourself, your weaknesses. When you master your weaknesses, when you're not afraid of your weaknesses, when nobody can ever trigger you again, when nothing really can put you out of your own center and place, that is the most powerful thing I know. And that's shadow work. You know, a lot of people are terrified. They hide all those things in their closets, but they just don't make them disappear. They hide them, you know. And something you can hide, you know, at one point in life is going to come back to the light, right? It's not going to be hidden anymore. It's going to be shown. So until it's destroyed, it can't really destroy you. Until it's not destroyed, you know, it's not going to work. It has to be destroyed. It has to be dead. It has to end. It has to be deleted. Not just erased, you know. It has to just disappear. You have to make it though disappear. If you don't, then it's going to follow you at one point in this life, right? Like, look, we're talking about shadows. Look at my shadow. Shadow is something that no matter how many times you just want to walk away, it's always there. It's always there. It follows you. And until you're good at seeing your shadow and being accompanied with your shadow, you're not going to be okay. And I'm really speaking to people who feel like they want to go deeper. I'm really speaking to people who have all those placements that I said, who have placements in the dark house of astrology. And for people who, yeah, just are crazy enough to challenge themselves. Because, as I said, disclaimer, shadow work is not for everybody. It's not. You know, I could easily be here and say, hey, you know, like, close all those therapy rooms and all those therapy, I don't know, centers or whatever, and just, you know, it's not working. But it's not about just the therapist. I want you to understand that it's about also the patient. You know, if the patient wants to go to the therapy but do not want to address all the things from the roots, they're not ready to face their biggest fears and their biggest demons, you know, no therapist can ever do that for them. That's the work they need to do. And yeah, shadow work is not for everybody, because in shadow work you may feel like you're losing your fucking mind. You know, and shadow work, if you don't have like an anchor to anchor you, you can really lose your mind, and you can really think that this is you, you know, all those thoughts, all those images, all, you know, is you. But if you have learned how to observe things, if you have learned, you know, like that all those things are just messengers, right? Like, doesn't mean anything about you. It's just, you know, like, it's just an information about something, but it has nothing to do with you, right? It's just trying to tell you something right now. Like, all those voices you hear, all those images you see, they have a big message for you to understand, right? And you need to sit with it. But if you're scared, you cannot do it, and you may feel like you're losing your mind, right? Because in shadow work, because you work with shadow, you may have to relive a lot of things that you may not like, that you want to hide forever. But you can never solve a problem if you do not look into it. You know, you can never have a solution if you do not look and try to solve this thing. And to solve this thing, you have to have a relationship with this thing, right? You have to, how to say this, as you solve the problem, you have to keep in touch with the problem, right? So just to find the solution. And sometimes you may go around yourself trying to find a solution, and maybe it's wrong or whatever, but until you really work with the problem, you can never find a solution. It's really like mathematics, you know? No matter how much you want to find a solution, if you not really put in the fucking work and just like see it in front of you and face it a lot of times, so you finally get to the solution, you'll never get to the solution. I'm saying? So in shadow work, you need to really be open and fearless to know about yourself and to see all the darkness that is. But you know, that's the beauty of shadow work, right? You get to see your biggest fears, your biggest demons. And in this life, a lot of people do not know themselves. See, that's the power that you gain from shadow work. When you know your biggest fears, when you know your biggest monsters, when you start to make peace, not just peace, when you start to be in harmony with them, nothing can truly ever destroy you. That is the biggest power of shadow work. So that's why something has to be so dark and just so deep in order to be powerful, because it's not for everybody. It's really not for everybody. And I said, like, this is for people who are strong enough, who are, you know, who are grounded enough. But yeah, strong enough. This work is not for the weak. It's not for a person who wants to hide from themselves forever. It's not for a person that wants to find quick fixes and just to, you know, cope with. Shadow work is one work that you do, but once you do it, you can never go back. You can never just cope with things, you know, because shadow work is roots, finding the root of the problem and completely changing the roots, completely, you know, like taking the roots out really and making you. And but it's like also seeing the roots, like, oh hey, you know, oh my gosh, like that's what's happening, oh my gosh, like, it's an eye-opening thing. And shadow work doesn't have to be scary, you know. But I found that this is a solution to everything. I used to have panic attacks, anxiety, all those voices and all that, but once I practice and work with my shadow, I got to love my shadow. I got to be cool with it, you know. And yeah, like whenever I do shadow work, it's just a pleasure. It's really such a great, beautiful thing that I used to hate. to hear about myself and all those triggering things and all that. But now like, oh, it's cool, you know. Oh my gosh, now look what I learned today about myself. It's such a great tool for self-learning. And all this time I speak about shadow, sorry, but I never said what shadow is. So shadow is all the parts of us that we're so scared to show to the world, and even to ourselves, to even acknowledge that they're there, right? There can be emotions, that can be mostly emotions, right? That can be memories, that can be all those thoughts we have in our heads about us that we don't like to see, right? So that can be, you know, that jealousy, you know, like, or there can be insecurities, that can be this abandonment wound that you have from your father. You know, and you don't want to acknowledge, because if you have to acknowledge, it means you have to go through pain and grief to understand what happened to you, and to nurture what happened to you. And you know, like, all those parts of you that society does not understand, all those parts of you that made you different at one point in your life and you couldn't fit in with other people, so you have to truly push away, you know. All these thoughts that sound crazy if you're about to say them aloud, all, you know, all those parts of you that really need to be hidden, because, you know, if they're out, then the world's going to look at you like you're crazy, right? So that's what shadow is all those parts of society, friends, and your family, and whoever, you know, told you that, oh my gosh, it's crazy, you know, you shouldn't have them, you know, like, you shouldn't be this way, right? So what you did when you were a child, you say, oh, so if, you know, those things are not going to make me, you know, are not going to help me make friends, or if these things are not things that are going to make me be acknowledged by my parents, or even loved, because it's all about love when you're a kid, right? If I'm not going to be loved and liked by my parents or by the world, I need to hide it somewhere in a Bandari's box to never see it. So that's what shadow is, right? All those all those things they were so scared to talk about, so scared to be, right? So scared to be. And it can be feelings. I used to be like that. I used to be so scared of my feelings, because I was shut down, and it was like, if I show feelings, that means I'm weak, right? I'm a weak person, so I won't do that. And yeah, I lived my life being just so, you know, cut off from, and being out of alignment with a lot of things in my life, people in my life, jobs, and generally a lot of things. So a shadow, like, if you think about shadow is like 90% of our unconscious, really 90% of our body. And a lot of people say that, you know, the unconscious and the sharp conscious is not in the mind, it's in the body. It's down from the neck and all, and down to the, like, to us, it's from the neck and down all till your toes. That is the subconscious, the body, and the only conscious is your mind. And it makes so much sense, because doing shadow work, you realize it's like somatic therapy. It's like some, you know, all those things kind of like correlate with each other. Somatic therapy, shadow work. Is there anything else? Really, yes, those two. Yeah, everything you start to understand when you do the work, everything correlates with each other. And yeah, so in somatic therapy, if you don't know, you know, you know, like, they're telling you to work with your body. So like, where do you feel discomfort right now, right? Let's just say it's my chest. You need to seed with this feeling. You need to feel this feeling can speak with this feeling, and this feeling is going to reveal to you why it's in pain and how, and with what it may correlate to this pain, right? So let's just say it's this one memory that's been stored in your body, and it's been stored right here. So you're feeling it and you speak with it, and you may relieve it, relieve the pain and the memory. But that's one way to make, your body safe again. That's one way to come back to your own safety. And yeah, that's how shamanic works. And yeah, I would definitely say that the subconscious is the body, because what I've learned through my own experience, all those bad thoughts, all those like thoughts that I had in my head that was just so terrifying and all that, have never came from my head. They came from my body being so done with carrying all this information subconsciously and not solving it, and it became ill. And I became ill at certain parts of my body, because my body had enough, and all this came to the head. So what happens with people, we say, oh, they're mental ill, and I don't even like this word anymore, or it's labeling, but it's like, it comes to your head because that's the only way to see the problem, right? It's not coming because you're sick or something is wrong with you. It comes to your mind because that's the only way you can truly see the subconscious, right? Like through your mind, which is the conscious one, right? So that's how your body communicates with you outside of just pain and ache. It's through your mind. It's to send, signals to the mind. Say, hey, we have a problem. This person needs to solve this, and it just don't want to. And this person, like, we had enough of it. We had enough in this body. This body had enough of this. We either solve this thing or we're out. Or everything is going to go downhill from now on. So I really believe anything is not about the mind. Everything is about the body, because like this whole is like the biggest percent when it comes down to the whole body. So if 90% is unconscious and subconscious, then the 10% cannot really do anything else than just hear it, right? And that's why most of our life we say, we're sleepwalking, we're living unconsciously, because we don't truly make those decisions by a clear state, which is our conscious self. Understand that, hey, so this one insecurity and this one want or desire that I have is not coming from me. It's coming from all those traumas, all those triggers that I have. They're coming from my family, my roots. So when I choose this one thing, I choose my father. When I choose this one thing, I choose my mother, subconsciously, without even knowing, right? And that can lead us to having all those relationships that look like our parents, and we don't really want them, and they don't align with us, but they're just familiar to us, and that's what the subconscious has learned, as a feeling being. So yeah, we ended up having a lot of people in our lives that look exactly like our parents, and that's what happened with me, until I woke up and realized a lot of things. I was like, oh my God, like all those friends I had were just like my parents in so many ways, and that's why I was always trying to find the depth, but I never did. And and it was like I started to realize, hey, we never truly had anything deep. We just knew each other. That's it. We were bonded by familiarity and by, and and a lot of them were drum bonds. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is the people I have around me. It's fucking crazy, but it's true. And yeah, so if you do not, if you do not bring light, because that's what bringing light to the situation is, going to the darkness, bringing out the surface, like, oh, I really feel insecure about this thing. I used to push down my insecurities. I do a lot of work around insecurities lately. And I used to push down my insecurities. I used to like block them or repress them. Be like, I'm confident, you know. You were never going to truly realize that I was insecure, because I was hiding it so greatly, so strongly, that you would have thought that I'm the most confident person in the world. But little did you know, I was the opposite. I was so scared. So scared of myself, so scared of everything about myself. And I was so secure, so in my head about a lot of things, about all these little things that really never truly mattered. But I was in my head about it, right? I mean, like, I don't blame anyone being in their heads bad and having insecurities, because the society, we have learned to be insecure, and especially women, we have learned to see everything as a flow and needing to go to doctors, to outside factors to fix it, right? I had to make a lot of videos about feminine energy and, you know, and insecurities and all these things that I have found out through my own trips. Not an ayahuasca trip, trips to the subconscious and to this, you know, let's just say divine mind or knowledge. I would say knowledge, divine knowledge. So yeah, I guess this is where I need to stop speaking. Thank you so much for listening. What I had to say about shadow work. I'm going to make a lot of videos about it, and I'm about to go deeper. But for today, I just wanted to say how, you know, like how important shadow work is, how it saved me, how I really believe it's such a great tool. And if you're being called to do this, this is for you. And it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Not everybody can be strong. Not everybody can face their darkness and their demons. But for the people who are being called, if you're here seeing this video, it means at some point you are, or you resonate with it. So, you know, it's a really great tool. And if you're thinking of just dive deeper into it, do it. But it's really important to have an anchor, to have an anchor, either have another person do this with you and guiding you, or, you know, if you're self-assured, if you're not afraid to go and do this your own. It can be scary, but I can 100% tell you that everything is going to be alright, as long as you know that all this thing that you're seeing and hearing is you, but it's not you. You know, I don't know how to explain it. It's not you're just an observer. You're both. I feel like you're everything. It's not just you are the observer and everything else is outside of you. You're the observer and the filler and the one that, oh girl, I don't know how to explain this. You're the person that has the darkness and observes the darkness and guides the darkness, right? But it may feel like you don't. And I'm the person that I don't like to control things. I used to feel like we can control our emotions and all those things, but no. But it's like flowing. You know, shadow work is going to teach you a lot about flowing. So if you truly trust yourself, yes, you're going to find yourself, you know, being the observer, but also the person, you know, that feels all those things. And there's nothing wrong. You just need to find, you know, a balance and understand that, hey, you know, I am this, but also I am this. You know, like all those things are coming from me, but they don't have anything to truly, they don't have power over me. You know, all those things that have happened to me, all those things are things that need to be felt, but because they need to be felt, or because I hear all those things, or because all those things are happening right now in my mind, doesn't mean anything. You know, there are just things that have happened to me, or things I have inside of me, but all those things don't make me or break me, right? You'll find that when you go through this whole trip of shadow work, and, you know, like, let's say you're finished your first session, you're going to understand that, you know, you're not it. And it's not you. But at some point, you become it. but then it goes. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. I feel like I want to say this one thing that comes to my mind. So it's like you're the sea, right? The ocean. And the ocean is just so chill and cool. But then it has waves and all that. But it doesn't mean that ocean is the waves, right? Or the calmness. Ocean is just ocean, right? That it gets to be all those things. That it gets to go to get through all those changeable ways of being and adaptable ways of being. What is adaptive? So shadow work, really, when you go through shadow work, is you are being adaptive. You're it till you're not, till you're you, till none of this really makes sense, till none of this really is you. And then you get to, I mean, like, through this process you get to understand that you're not your darkness, you're not those thoughts, you're not those emotions. But at one point you were, because emotions are like that, you know. Like, now I'm sad, doesn't mean I'm going to be sad forever, no, but now I'm sad. So it's more of a resonance, right? So now I'm sad, that's why I'm being sad, right? And I'm sitting with this feeling. But tomorrow that will change if I sit with it and feel it as much as it wants to be felt and be seen. So that's what shadow work is. You know, you hear this thought, till this thought has been expressed enough, for as long as it needs to be expressed enough. Or this image, you know, because like, even if you see images, right, which comes from the subconscious, and there's a lot of symbolism there, you know, if you sit with them and don't try to change them, they're going to change itself. They're going to change themselves. They're going to do whatever they want. But it's like, you need to sit and accept and understand that nothing has to do with you. You know, you may feel like you're it right now, and that is because you need to feel the emotion in order for it to change, you know. So yeah, if you want to do any of this work, if you're felt called to do shadow work, which is to go deeper to your roots, to your weaknesses, to your phobias, and usually, you know, in our fears, in our triggers, in our most vulnerable parts, there's a big strength. If you dive deeper into all those things, you're going to find treasures, my friend. And this comes from a person that was so afraid to ever look in my darkness. So yeah, if you're feeling called to do this work, do it however you feel like. And I'm here to testify and say this work has changed my life. And later, when I found out in my astrology chart that I have, you know, my astrology map, that I have, you know, like placements in dark houses such as the 8th house and the 12th house, and that is needed for this placements to and for these houses to be done a lot of shadow work. It made so much sense. And yeah, as I said again, disclaimer, this work is not for everybody, but if you're being called to dive deeper into yourself and learn more, this is the first thing you need to start, from your shadow, from the roots, because the roots contain a lot of shadow, right? But it's important for you to do anything else in this life. You know, a lot of people saying that, oh, you know, the roots, doesn't matter, you know, I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm going to do it my way, and they're going to love attraction and manifestation and all that, and you know, if you haven't done the work, you're going to deal with a lot of desperation and a lot of things that you didn't want. So, you know, I really believe at one point or another, if you do not know yourself, if you do not know your story, if you do not know your roots and understand how much they, they affect you, you'll never get to be happy. You'll never get to be truly happy until you integrate and understand your shadow. Yeah. So until you be aware. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you. Have a good day, evening, night, whatever. Whatever it is for you, whatever you are. So yeah.